my God. Today I nearly collapsed on the icy sand when I suddenly realized that the old man trudging by the training fence wasn't just a local, he was a SEAL legend missing for 30 years. You won't believe your eyes when the dawn light breaks and the faded trident tattoo flashes on his trembling forearm. If you miss that moment, you'll regret it forever, because this very instant will change the way everyone sees courage, for good. Coronado Naval Base on Thursday morning lay shrouded in mist, against the damp sand and the gentle lapping of waves along the pier. Jackson "Jax" Myers, a 22-year-old rookie whose gaze had never wavered from his goal of becoming a Navy SEAL, slowly wheeled his bicycle to a stop near the training shack. His strong features still bore the fatigue of a brutal week of drills, and he sighed softly. This was the day he had been waiting for, yet it also stirred an unfamiliar restlessness within him. As Jack set his bike aside, he caught sight of an old man stepping down from a rusted Ford F-150, a paper cup of coffee in one hand and a weary, forced smile on his lips. The man carried no bag, wore no uniform, only a faded green windbreaker and a baseball cap so sun-bleached that its stitching had nearly vanished. No one paid him any mind. The rookies plunged into the bog. Instructors barked orders through megaphones, and the slap crunch of boots in mud echoed across the training ground. The old man set his coffee on a steel railing, then stepped back a few paces and folded his arms as he watched. His eyes narrowed as each trainee crawled low beneath the barbed wire fence, each breath a challenge to their own limits. Jax paused and narrowed his gaze. He shows up every week. Never says a word, never asks a question. As if he belongs here, he whispered to his companion. The other rookies traded theories. Probably just a curious local, one shrugged. Or a veteran seeking one last grind, another scoffed. Yet by instinct, Jack sensed something different. When his eyes drifted from the coffee cup to the old man's weathered face, he felt the stirrings of a hidden story beneath that faded fabric. Moments later, the whistle signaled the next drill and the trainees leapt into position, but Jax could not tear his eyes away from the stranger. Slowly, the old man retreated behind a cluster of rusted steel posts near the edge of the running track. In the furthest shadow, he stood motionless, arms still folded, a statue weathered by time. No breeze, no movement, only a profound stillness amid the chaos of shouts, falling boots, and the tang of sweat. A restlessness churned in Jax's chest. He thought he knew Coronado's trials. The clinging mud, the stinging salt water, the ache of drained muscles. Yet this silent presence pressed on his heart in a new way. He nodded to himself. Today he had to uncover the reason. As the others dropped low and crawled through obstacles, he rose onto his toes and squinted, determined to catch sight of the faint tattoo hidden beneath the cuff of the windbreaker. Then a gust of wind roared through, carrying the crash of surf. The man's sleeve lifted higher than before, revealing a blur of dark ink, a trident, sharp and unadorned, enough to shatter every assumption. Jax froze. The image struck his memory like a thunderclap. Camouflage lessons, deep recon operations, whispers of secret missions never spoken aloud. Now, amid yells and flying mud, Jax knew this was no ordinary training day. He felt the weight of history settle on his shoulders, as though the very spirit of Coronado's sands and waves urged him to rise and confront the past etched into that stranger's flesh. Would he dare step forward and unlock the story written on that arm? Or would he remain silent, missing the chance to change himself forever?
The moment he dropped low and crawled beneath the barbed wire fence, Jackson "Jax" Myers sensed something extraordinary waiting to be revealed. The morning breeze off Coronado Bay swept through, billowing the old man's moss-green windbreaker before letting it fall back down, exposing a gaunt forearm. In a single heartbeat, faded ink appeared beneath sun-darkened skin, a trident, sharp and unadorned, no embellishments, no golden outline, just a clean, haunting design. Jax's heart thundered in his chest. In his mind, the tactics manuals he had studied flickered to life. The DevGru emblem SEAL Team 6, the tip of the spear reserved for the most perilous missions. He lifted his gaze, unable to look away from the tattoo. His entire body went rigid. This was not mere decoration, but proof of a dangerous past. Beneath the salty breeze, Jax felt echoes of long-ago operations, night raids, weapon seizures, the solitude of a warrior who confides only in darkness. He thought, he couldn't possibly be, drew a deep breath to steady the surge of emotion, and forced himself to crawl forward as if nothing had happened. When the drill ended, Jax returned to the barracks, yet his eyes never left the stranger. Every other recruit focused on the instructors, only he watched the uninvited guest. A single question rose in his mind. How many people had glimpsed that tattoo without understanding its meaning? That night Jax tossed on the hard bunk, every sound distant surf, the hum of the air conditioner growing in his mind. The image of the old man placing his coffee on the railing, shoulders stooped in dawn light, cap tilted low over a weathered face, haunted him. A name surfaced in his memory: Harrow. The darkness seemed endless as doubts swirled. Why does he come here every week? He asked himself. What does he seek in this place, when no one invited him, no one knows his name? A pang of sorrow welled as he thought of the unnamed missions, unrecorded sacrifices. That tattoo was etched not only on flesh, but into the collective memory of the SEAL community's silent souls who had transcended human limits. At dawn, Jax strode onto the training ground with unusual resolve. He could no longer remain silent. Each footstep on the concrete urged him onward. He knew he had to connect with that story, but where to begin? His steps felt heavy, yet his heart was lighter, fueled by a new purpose: to uncover the path that had brought this old soldier to Coronado Naval Base. When the old man appeared again on schedule, Jax stopped just a few paces away. The breeze stirred, and once more the sleeve rose to reveal faded ink. Jax raised his hand to shield his eyes, determined to memorize every detail. He pressed his lips together, promising himself, if he walked away now, he would forever regret letting this secret slip through his fingers. Dear audience, grab a glass of water, take a moment to relax, and keep listening to the story. The twists are still to come. And please drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always a joy to see who's joining us from around the world. Drop a 1 in the comments if you find this story gripping, so we can keep bringing you more captivating tales. The moment dawn's mist lifted to reveal the ragged cliff face overlooking the sea, tension gripped Jacob's ladder on Coronado Naval Base. Thick ropes hung from 2 anchors atop the precipice, daring anyone brave enough to climb. After 2 weeks of mastering mud pits and barbed wire crawls, Jax Myers approached the cliff's base. He glanced down into the abyss that met the raging ocean, then drew a deep breath. His heart pounded a powerful rhythm, like a drumbeat heightening every sense. When his turn came, Jax raised his hand and seized the first rope. Sweat gathered on his brow, mingling with the salty sea air. In the soft glow of dawn, each craggy rock surface seemed to whisper of the trial's severity. He lifted his foot onto the first knot, the rope's sway sending a thrill up his spine. The recruits below craned their necks, their breaths ragged, faces taut with concentration. This was more than a contest against gravity, it was a silent dialogue with the deepest fears within us all. Jax regulated his breathing, feeling adrenaline surge through his veins. He stepped to the second knot, then the third. His thigh and arm muscles sang in protest, like tightened guitar strings. His lips trembled, but no words escaped because the greatest encouragement came from his own unwavering resolve. Never stop. Each upward movement was a personal challenge. You can make it. Midway up, where the rock jutted out in a ledge, a sudden gust roared off the sea, buffeting Jax with fierce force. His moss-green windbreaker flapped wildly, flinging grains of sand across his sweat-soaked skin. He wavered, his heart threatening to leap from his chest. Then his eyes caught a hastily carved inscription on the nearby rock: "Never forgotten." Though weathered by time, the letters remained crisp, a testament that could not be erased. Those words were more than a tribute to those honored in history. They were an echo from the past. Fallen soldiers, outstretched arms that had once faltered, heads silvered by desert dust. Jax closed his eyes, envisioning the mysterious old man Thomas Harrow standing silent behind the barbed wire, watching every move. He felt history's pulse in his veins, urging him onward. Eyes open, Jax tightened his grip on the ropes. Below, his comrades followed each movement with bated breath. They didn't merely hope for his success. They awaited the moment when a fledgling recruit would emerge capable of bearing greater responsibility. In that instant, communal pressure weighed on him even as it ignited a warming fire in his chest. He pressed upward, surmounting the rocky overhang's perilous curve. Each inch secured was not merely a physical victory, but an affirmation of an indomitable spirit. When his eyes reached the topmost knot, Jax paused. He looked down, muddy boots, sweat-streaked faces, eyes shining with respect. For the first time, he realized this was no ordinary drill, but an initiation rite marking the birth of a future SEAL. No drums sounded, no declarations rang out, only a brief, reverent silence. Then, Jax smiled, a full, genuine grin that blended sweat and struggle. He closed his eyes, inhaled deeply, and as if savoring each molecule of air, engraved the triumph into every fiber of his being. When he opened his eyes, Jax reached up and grasped the final anchor, then eased his feet down. His sweat-soaked hair fell across his forehead, but his lips retained that radiant smile. Standing atop the cliff, he did not rush to descend. Instead, Jax gazed out at the distant sea, where waves met the horizon. A gentle sea breeze brushed past, carrying away fatigue and leaving a profound calm in its wake. At last, he climbed down to the base and walked to the railing. The old man remained where he had always stood, his coffee cup, long empty, lips pressed into a silent line of pride. Jax bowed his head, crossing his arms like a salute to a living testament. The recruits erupted in applause all around him, but the one moment etched forever in Jax's memory was that wordless, knowing look. Blazing under the relentless southern sun, the sprawling marshland of Coronado transformed into a suffocating maze of viscous mud and stagnant pools. Every inch of the terrain seemed alive with entrapment, the thick ooze threatening to suck anyone under its implacable surface. For Jax Myers, this was the final trial, the culminating test that would push every fiber of his body and every shard of his spirit to the brink. As the giant military truck rumbled onto the swamp, its rear tires groaned and groaned again, spinning helplessly as they sank deeper into the mire. The air vibrated with the monster's labored breathing, and then an instructor's voice cut through the heat haze like a whip. "Figure it out yourselves. No help coming." The command reverberated across the waterlogged field, leaving only stunned silence in its wake. Recruits scattered to the edges, their gear-slick bodies creating a circle of wary onlookers. Jax stood motionless, eyes fixed on the steel behemoth, gauging its yawning undercarriage as if measuring the weight of the world. He drew a steadying breath, then flicked his cap off his head and tucked it into his waistband. Without another thought, he waded forward into the chest-high water, the brine stinging every pore. Each step felt like an eternity mud suctioned at his thighs, dragging at him, daring him to retreat, but his resolve crackled like electricity through his veins. This moment would define him. Lowering his body until his torso brushed against the truck's belly, Jax slid beneath its armored frame. Mud and sweat merged into rivulets that coursed down his spine, tickling his nerves and reminding him of every grueling drill he had endured to reach this point. His gloved hand found the safety strap dangling near the rear axle, its grimy fibers coarse against his palm. He wrapped both hands around it and tugged with a roar of determination. The truck protested with a shriek of metal on steel, each reverberation echoing off the swamp's muddy walls. Jax's muscles flared, biceps and forearms burning as though aflame, but he refused to relent because he knew that at the railing above, a silent witness observed every move. The old man whose faded trident tattoo had haunted Jax's thoughts. Time stretched as the engine sputtered and coughed, a fragile lull in the chaos. In that pregnant silence, Jax dug deeper into his reserves, tightening his grip and shifting his weight. He braced one foot against the soggy ground, then heaved with every ounce of strength left in him. There was a groan of reluctant acquiescence as the truck's undercarriage lifted, inch by inch, from its muddy cage. Water exploded in all directions, a spray of droplets catching the sun like diamonds. Mud flung itself against the windshield in dark rivulets, but the vehicle lurched forward at last, liberated from its prison. Behind him, cheers erupted, a thunder of voices carried on the humid air as his teammates celebrated the triumph. Yet Jax remained beneath the truck until the echo faded, allowing the moment's completion to sink into his bones. Then he carefully pivoted, knees creaking under the unfamiliar freedom, and wriggled out from under the chassis. He stood, breathing hard, wiping sludge from his brow with the back of a glove. The celebration swirled around him, hands slapped his shoulders, pats on the back and hoots of admiration, but he offered only a composed nod, lips pressed into a line of stoic gratitude. Turning away from the churning marsh, Jax made his way toward the sandy shore. Every grain of sand felt foreign to his boots, but each footstep grounded him further in what he had accomplished. His gaze drifted to the railing where the old man still stood, unmoving as a sentinel. There, an empty paper coffee cup rested, abandoned at dawn, and now baked hard by the Sunday. The old man raised a weathered hand, adjusting his cap in a gesture so small, so unassuming, that only the keenest eye would notice. Yet in that single motion, Jax saw a lifetime of unseen hardship and solemn dignity. The sun blazed down, spotlighting the man's glinting eyes, eyes that held a quiet pride no words could capture. In that instant, Jax felt the weight of an entire silent history settle upon him, the unbreakable bond of teamwork forged in adversity. The relentless spirit of self-reliance that pushes one to solve problems alone, and above all, the unspoken perseverance that carries a soldier through the darkest moments. He realized that the path of a SEAL was paved not only with feats of strength, but with these unvoiced acts of courage. Reaching the swath of bright sand, Jax paused. He refused to turn back to the truck, for his gaze was fixed forward on the distance, on the challenge he had conquered. With deliberate reverence, he bowed his head in salute to the swamp itself, acknowledging the trial that had forged him anew. Around him applause still thundered, but his mind echoed with a quieter, more profound applause. The unspoken nod from the old man, the gesture that lingered in Jax's memory as the truest measure of honor. It was in that wordless exchange between a fledgling recruit and a silent legend that Jax understood the essence of his transformation. He stepped forward from the edge of the marsh with a new certainty. No medal or proclamation could match the weight of that silent blessing. In the still heat of the southern sun, Jax Myers became more than a recruit. He became the living embodiment of never forgotten. The muddy storm had barely settled, and the recruits had just wiped the sweat from their brows when a rare, cool breeze swept across the Coronado training grounds, carrying with it a hint of salty sea air. The chaos of the day gave way to a strange stillness, broken only by the crisp footsteps of Captain Ramirez on the damp concrete. He signaled for the entire squad to assemble around the military truck, his gaze as steely as the sunset reflected on his uniform. Bathed in evening light, the captain strode purposefully toward Jax, who had just taken a swig from a cold water bottle beside a nearby tree. No complaints, no grand gestures, just the dying sun highlighting the dried mud crust on Jax's boots as Captain Ramirez offered a curt nod and spoke in a gravelly voice rich with authority. "Myers, today, you didn't just complete the exercise. You saved the truck and your teammates. Remember this. A SEAL isn't defined by muscle, but by heart." Praise of any other kind felt redundant, as dozens of eyes stilled and fixed on Jax with deep admiration. The shouts, the blaring whistles, the mud plastered to their gear all had proven their mettle, yet that simple, sincere statement struck them to their core. Jax allowed himself a shy smile and nodded his thanks, though his heart still thrummed from the silent sacrifice he had made. As darkness gradually enveloped Coronado Naval Base, The rows of tents glowed warmly under yellow lights, and the training field fell back into quietude. Most recruits retreated to their bunks, boots clacking along the path to the barracks, but by the rusted railing a small cluster of instructors lingered in hushed conversation. Their whispers mingled with the distant roar of the surf. Harrow, Thomas Harrow, Master Chief of SEAL Team 6. Nobody believed he was still alive. They say he's the last man standing from Desert Storm. On his way back to the dorm, Jack stopped in his tracks. A street lamp cast an oblique beam across the corroded railing, tracing the weary silhouettes of the men in dress blues. He held his breath, absorbing every hushed syllable of that unspoken legend. No more doubt, no more idle curiosity. He knew he had brushed against an unsung hero. Silence took on new meaning. Jax thought of the empty coffee cup left on the railing, the old man's subtle nod of approval, and that trident tattoo, small details that had engraved themselves on his memory. He felt a fresh sense of duty bloom within him, a silent vow to himself and to Harrow's history that this story would never fade into oblivion. As he walked on, Jax gently tapped his finger against his bicycle frame, imagining the old man's steadfast footsteps pressing into Coronado's sand. Every step he took now echoed with the legend's voice, bridging past and present. He wondered, would he ever earn the right to shoulder that same responsibility, to merit Harrow's approving nod in return? As dawn's mist dissolved into a clear sky, Jax discovered a carefully sealed envelope tucked beneath the memorial plaque on the railing, the very spot where the mysterious old man had watched every training session. Etched repeatedly into the stainless steel plaque were the words, SEAL Spirit, accompanied by no name, no date, only the legendary trident symbol. Jax knelt down, his fingertip brushing the cool surface of those letters. A gentle Coronado sea breeze drifted through, setting the metal to sparkle in the morning light. Without any words, Jax understood that this was no ordinary tribute. It was the emblem of unbreakable camaraderie, of a spirit that never yields, the true essence of a SEAL. He offered a quiet smile, feeling the warmth of countless silent sacrifices. In that stillness, memories of the old man returned in vivid detail, his folded arm stance, the empty coffee cup, the look of admiration when Jax conquered Jacob's ladder, the discreet nod after pulling the truck free, and now, this SEAL Spirit plaque. All these pieces formed a story far greater than Jax himself. He realized Harrow needed no explanation. Anyone who witnessed those moments would grasp the meaning. Gently, Jax opened the envelope. Inside lay a small card bearing two simple lines, "For those who never ask for praise." His heart constricted. The card was a belated acknowledgement of unsung heroes like Harrow, those who lay the foundation before anyone notices. No boisterous acclaim was required, only a gentle reminder, never forget them. He rose and replaced the card beneath the plaque, then turned toward the sprawling training ground beneath the railing. The recruits' shouts rang out as before, but to Jax's eyes, everything felt different. He pictured Harrow again, silent footsteps, the empty coffee cup, eyes reflecting a treasure trove of history. Every sound, the whoosh of wind through rope, the distant call of challenge, had become a beat in the unspoken SEAL spirit. His pace slowed as he approached a solitary camera perched beside the seawall. Jax bowed his head and lightly touched the lens, as though greeting the unseen viewers to come. He imagined thousands of eyes soon following this scene, not merely witnessing a trial, but feeling the profound meaning carried in that SEAL Spirit envelope. And you, my dear audience, brace yourselves for the next twist in this jaw-dropping story. So, before you get too cozy, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you're truly loving what I'm doing here. And drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always a thrill to see who's joining us from all corners of the globe.